Hi everyone, my name is Leah, and um, I want to tell you a little bit about my injury, and you can also read my profile, and probably a lot of the stuff that I'm going to say, is in there, but hate to seem like I'm repeating myself, but um, basically, I sustained my injury 3 years ago. My injury was November 29th, 2006, and it was due to a gunshot wound. Um, yeah, it's a gunshot wound. Most people look at me and say, wow, you don't look like a girl that would be in a shooting. But unfortunately, there is a stereotype to this type of injury. And unfortunately, in society today, women being shot at by their husbands or boyfriends isn't that uncommon anymore. Not that I'm picking on men, but statistically, if you look up murder suicide, um, men are like 98% more likely to kill a woman than a man is with a firearm and then killing himself. And that, unfortunately, is what happened to me. Going back to November 29th, 2006, my husband was dropping my son off from a visit. We were separated. I was living in my own place, and he was dropping my son off after a visitation. And he came in to speak to me, and he was sitting at a table. And he walked away, walked behind a wall where I couldn't see him, and pulled out a 45 caliber handgun, and he proceeded to shoot me once, and I put my wrist up, and the bullet went through my wrist and it grazed my neck. As you can see here, I have a big scar, but it missed my carotid artery by millimeters. And so I didn't fall to the ground, and he was obviously trying to kill me, so he shot me again, and the bullet hit my left side of my torso, hit the rib cage, and went down into the intestines, making two holes, and then hit the L3 vertebrae, and that's where the spinal cord injury comes into play. Hitting the L3 vertebrae, causing a burst fracture, which the vertebrae then fell into gazillions of pieces onto the nerves that operate your legs and your feet, which are called the Cauda Equina nerves, which means the horse. I guess it means horse's tail, and they just it's the nerves that go down, like it's right after your spinal cord. So basically, the doctors told me that if my injury would have been any couple inches higher, I definitely would have been a paraplegic. The first month of being in the hospital, I was in the ICU for the first 2 weeks, but in the first month, I was not able to move my body from the waist down, and I was pretty much numb everywhere. But after that first month, I was able to move my quads, and I was, in rigorous therapy, and was able to, by the end of my hospital stay, I was able to walk out of the hospital with a walker, with AFOs up to my knees, of course, rigid AFOs. And, but needless to say, I was able to walk. It took 2 years of physical therapy, a little over 2 years of physical therapy for me now to be able to walk with one cane, and I have AFOs up to my mid calf. I'm still unable to move my feet at a functional level, but after 2 years, I'm able to move my right foot pretty well and my left foot slightly. And but not to a functional level. I still have to wear my AFOs. I can walk without the AFOs and the cane. Of course, it's not really advisable for me to do that outside of my home, but inside I do, inside the house. So I've come a long, long, long way, to a point where the doctors weren't very hopeful for me at first that I'd ever walk again. They said it would take about a year to a year and a half to know what the injury, how I would progress, and where I would fall, and, at. And I just, what keeps me going is my faith in God, of course, and my son, and fighting. My son was over two, almost three at the time of this happening, and he witnessed my husband shoot me, and then my husband proceeded to shoot himself. So it was a very traumatic. It's still a very hard thing to get through. It's been 3 years, and I've come such a long way, but healing physically and mentally has been a huge thing for me, and it's been such a process. And of course, as everyone knows, this is not something that happens overnight. And I think I'm finally in the acceptance stages of it. I have my days, Lord knows, but I feel like I'm more accepting of it than I've ever been. And sometimes I actually get a little upset, being that I see these people on here that are, their injuries are worse than mine, and they have a better outlook on life at times than I do. And it's been very inspiring. And probably for the past 4 months, I've been watching, different shows and things, and I see these people moving on with their lives, and they're in worse physical shape than I am. So my goal is to, in life, I want to be able to inspire people also. It is hard for me because I do fall in between the physical normal person and paraplegic person. I'm not exactly at a normal functioning, but I'm not exactly in a wheelchair either. So it's sort of hard support wise, because there aren't many Cauda Equina support groups, because Cauda Equina is such a rare thing. So, basically, what I would like to do is inspire people, whether it be on a spiritual level, and, even if it isn't, if people don't, believe, that is obviously their choice and right. But to even just be inspired as a human being, that horrible things happen to people all the time, but they are able to move on, and you can get through things. Also, I would like to be able to teach people, educate people with domestic violence and depression. I think that, we have a huge epidemic going on of murder suicide in the United States. And women in particular are, to me, being slaughtered like animals. And we complain about other countries and the way women are treated, but I see it in our country too. It just isn't as primitive maybe, but it's still there. And I would just like to educate people on depression, signs of suicide. And I think people are being, left and falling and slipping in between the cracks, and they're not being treated the way they need to be, and families aren't being educated the way they need to be. And, I just, that is my goal, to hopefully be able to inspire others. And I'm just really excited about this website. I hope to meet a lot of people on here and be able to connect with people, and just really, you know, this is just like another part of my healing process, is finding this website. So I thank you all for listening to my story, and I thank you all for inspiring me with your stories.